las políticas institucionales de Doral Voice ni de sus patrocinadores.
Con Esquivel, yeah, baby, a otro nivel. I love my Doral. Con Esquivel, a ti te quiero Doral.
Muy buenas tardes. Good afternoon. Today we are going to have an English program. I'm sorry to the Spanish speaker only, but I think it merits the situation. Not long ago, I had a program regarding homeowners associations and the frauds that go along in the Miami area, especially in the Doral, since 85% of our program, 85% of our cities, cities, places like neighborhoods are homeowners associations or have some type of homeowners association or condominium fees. Okay, with me, I have two wonderful ladies, two retired police department lieutenant and sergeant. Okay, Tamara Reyes with the retired Miami Police Department, and Suzanne Lawton, South Florida. Her voice. Okay, South Florida property owners consultant. What is South Florida property owners consultant actually do? Besides the word says consulting.
Well, we established in 2018. I was a sergeant in the Miami-Dade Police Department. I worked in Economic Crimes Bureau. So at the time, we started seeing an influx. Even though I wasn't assigned to the condo unit, we started seeing an influx of homeowners coming in with complaints about what was happening, the lack of transparency, the fact that they were there was allegations of fraud and mismanagement of association funds.
Okay.
So once I retired, I reached out to Suzanne and a group of other retired police officers that I respected. And I asked them if they would join me in this venture of trying to assist these people. The majority of the people had already either had filed a complaint, a criminal complaint, or they had already gone to the DBPR and tried to file a regulatory complaint.
Yes.
So basically that's what we do. We handle this in the private sector.
Okay.
Either a property owner, a group of property owners, or an association that now a newly elected board can hire us to look into the financial documents and how their money was spent.
You mentioned DBPR. They are the regulators of condominium associations?
Yes, they regulate condo associations. They do not regulate homeowners associations.
Okay, what's the difference between them, if you don't mind telling our people? Oh, by the way, this is your camera, and that's my camera. You will be appearing in all social media, YouTube, and our webpage is live right now as we speak. Okay, go ahead, I'm sorry.
So the condo associations are regulated under the 718 statute.
Okay.
And the homeowners associations are regulated under the 720 statute.
You're talking Florida State?
Yes.
Okay.
What happens is, every unit in a condominium contributes $4 to the state.
Oh.
And the homeowner associations don't. Although the laws are in place, they are not regulated.
Do they bound by the same laws? Or they have different type of laws depending on the chapter that they have?
They almost mirror each other.
Okay.
There's a few exceptions, but
Okay.
they almost mirror each other.
Interesting. Can you talk about yourselves first before we get into the deep? Okay. While you were how many years in the force?
29 years.
29 years in the police force. I thank you for your service. How about you, Suzanne?
Nearly 28.
28
I retired
years.
a little early, and
Yeah.
I'm a retired lieutenant.
Are you a Miamian or you were born somewhere?
Born and raised.
Born and raised in Miami, Florida.
Yes.
How about you,
The
Tamara?
same?
Same? You were born here?
Yes.
Well, you know, when we did a program similar to this in Spanish, and you can look at it in our channel of YouTube. It says Fraude a las Asociaciones y a los Homeowners Association in Spanish. And the way that Tamara spoke in English of the words, I said we have to do this in English for our English-speaking public. This is a radio station committed to the community of Miami, of Doral. It's called Doral Voice Community Radio for a reason. We started this, and there's a lot of volunteers here. One of the problems is the lack of communication and information that the citizens or the residents of a city receive. Before we went in the air, Suzanne was a person that handled a lot of those incorporations for the city, for the Miami-Dade County, okay, when they were
Yes.
incorporating cities. Can you explain to me that experience? Must have been humongously nice.
It was very interesting because I got to watch it from inception, from an idea to birth through the county legislation, and then assisted in transitioning these newly formed cities into their own cities, and then also provided the contractual law enforcement, helping
you
to figure
basically
out.
did it as a law enforcement division?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Under the strategic planning section under the director at the time.
Okay.
And what we did is we looked at, the type of crimes that were happening in that particular area, whatever area was incorporating, the number of police officers that it would take to police that area, what things were unique to that area. For example, Doral. Doral had a population at the time of 22,000 some odd.
remember.
But the population swells. It's a transient population during the daytime, and you all swell to over 100,000 people in your city.
I know, 113,000 people go through our city, but only today 70,000 live here. That's how much we have grown.
That's
the
crazy.
voting population back then was like 8,000 when you mentioned 20-something thousand.
Yes.
Everything was woods. I think the only way you can get to Doral Park was to 36th Street.
Right.
Okay, and I did remember, because I had a business here. I didn't live in Doral back then when it was in a city. But I remember that all the police, when Doral was incorporated, was on the Miami-Dade Police, the same cars, but they said City of Doral.
Yes.
That was the transition.
We did that with all of the contractual law enforcement protection that we provided, the services that we provided to 5 cities, City of Miami Gardens, the Cutler Bay, Palmetto Bay, and all the other Doral. And we had the patch on the sleeve to denote that they were dedicated solely to that particular city. And they had striping and branding on the vehicles that showed that they were in that city, particularly only in that city. They didn't patrol anywhere else in Miami-Dade. They patrolled that particular contract city. And they really bought into it. The concept of the city, getting to know the residents. It was really enlightening to see. And I think that what you're doing is right in line with that and
Yes.
providing information to people.
So you will agree to the fact that having a small police department in a strategic area, like a city or municipality, is the best way to run a police department, not a big, huge police department.
I think that there are advantages to both. And I
Okay.
think that one thing that the cities liked having their own police departments is that they could make decisions about what was important to that city, whether it was on a contract basis with Miami-Dade Police Department or whether it was their own police department. And most of them transitioned to their own police department slowly in order to purchase equipment and to hire officers and things like that. But they were very happy with Miami-Dade Police.
I am so delighted to have you in this program.
Thank
I
you.
know it wasn't guided to ask her these questions, but I feel the urgency of asking because the defund the police movement and all these things. What was the strategic that you guys required for a city versus population on the amount of police officers back then versus now? Because I think our city of Doral Police Department is understaffed. I don't know how many exactly we had, but the last time I checked, we were like 50-something, 60 police officers. But how many police officers are in the Miami-Dade area? Okay, that you guys decided, okay, in order for you to establish your own police department, you have a minimum of so many population, 22,000 back then when you mentioned?
22,000 residents.
22,000 residents. You probably said, okay, I think with 40 cops you would do or something like that?
Well, we couldn't base it solely on the number of residents because it swells to
That's right.
100,000 during the
that's right.
daytime, and you have traffic, and you have accidents, and you have a lot of property crimes. You have a lot of warehouses and things like that. So you have to staff according to the types of crimes and the number of crimes that you have. You have crimes against persons, and then you have crimes against property. And you have to look at both of those things and take those into consideration. And you have to look at, are there violent crimes where you have to respond immediately and get there very quickly with lights and sirens? Or are they routine type crimes? Somebody stole somebody's wallet, somebody's missing a hubcap, things like that.
Somebody opened up a trunk in a mall.
Something happened like that, right.
Vandalism and stealing, robbery, whatever.
So you take into consideration all of those factors, and the way we did that is the county's broken down into grids, and you look at the crimes within those grids. For example, you're going to have more crimes, for example, in a grid where potentially a mall is located,
Oh, yeah.
or a restaurant or a nightclub.
Did you know that the Dolphin Mall was returned to Sweetwater, or was given to Sweetwater, because 90% of the crime in Doral happened in that area, near that mall? So it was a strategic decision by the city mayor back then, saying, we don't need this. Okay, not the income versus the reputation, because we were going like high on crime based on what was happening. People were being robbed, a lot of tourists, okay, complaining. People went out of the mall, put the goods inside of the trunk, going back in, and when they went back out, oh, welcome. And I don't believe there's been so many cops. That's why you see so many police officers within the parking lot of the Dolphin Mall. That was the main issue. The chief had to act, security and protection to the property of others in the Dolphin Mall area. But I'm happy to hear that. Miami, right now we're talking, there's a lot of talk on the street. I'm walking the streets, and people talk about insecurity. They feel that we live in a city that is fading on security. In associations, you find cars with blocks and the tires being stolen. This never happened in this city. This never happened in Miami many years ago. I've been here 43 years. I came when I was 13 years old, and back then, Miami was 72nd Avenue was the highest. We used to go shooting here, whatever, or bike riding. Okay, should I say I wasn't shooting at the age of 13? This is a correction. We have two police officers. No. But that was then. Okay. Schools were safer. There was a different type of things. But anyway, I'm happy that to have you here. I'm honored with your presence, because it's something that when it comes to community, it really eagers me. It inspires me to dig into the problem. How do we solve a security problem? How do we attack? We have a problem in Doral because 95 of the places, the neighborhoods, are privately owned, and they have a guard. So it's hard even for the fire department to get in, nevertheless the police department, okay? And then they have their own private security, okay? Which, I don't know. Lately, you go to a place and you have to put your driver's license in, and somebody in Tulsa, Oklahoma says, who are you visiting? I said, okay, where are you? I'm in Tulsa. Really?
Oh my goodness.
I said, I can't believe it. I'm in Doral, and there is a camera looking at me, looking at my license, and you're sitting in Tulsa, Oklahoma. What kind of security can you provide that? How much? And that goes into our theme today is our program, our problem. Homeowners associations, they slack a lot of services for the residents and the property owners. And they charge for this, like assessments and a whole bunch of things. So bad administrated or not properly administrated, when somebody knows that a management company or a board of a homeowners association has taken advantage or even steal money from this association, where do they go?
Well, they normally either go to the police department, they'll go to the DBPR if they feel that it's a regulatory, and if they have no success, then they'll come to us.
Okay, but they can sue individually, or you obviously do not recommend that, because you need the experience and the knowledge of where are those batches, those air batches happening. Okay, what happened when you were a police officer in that particular desk, or when you were sitting in a desk, hearing all these complaints of homeowners association frauds?
What happens is that when the homeowner comes in, The majority of the time, they've already asked for association records. The state statute, the 718, says that they have to provide them. The problem is that the majority of the homeowners, and this is what Suzanne and I and our entire team sees every day,
Yep.
they don't know.
They don't want to
know.
get involved also.
Yes, but
Major
they
problem.
don't know what it is, what a financial statement consists of.
Yeah.
They don't know what they're looking for. So whatever it is that the association provides to them,
It looks pretty.
it looks okay. You know, it says that this is what we have, and they're okay with that. There's money in the bank. We're not in a negative. The issue comes with how is that money spent? And what people don't understand is that the association may be solvent, but if you don't have enough money in your reserve accounts, you don't have enough money in each line item, at some point there's going to be a special assessment. At some point there's going to be loans. We have associations that, you know, the homeowners will come to us and the association has a loan of 5, 10, 15. We've even seen one for $37 million.
$37 million loan by a homeowners association. Now you tell me who approved that? Who is the guy in jail?
No, because the board has the ability to approve it, whether the unit owners are approving it or not. The board itself has the ability to approve those loans. So what happens is, how did you get to that where you needed that kind of money?
Wow.
And like you said,
What did you do with $30 million?
just complete
When
renovations.
you have 95, but you have 90, but this must have been a big, huge homeowners association or condominium
It
association.
was a condominium with about 300 units.
What's-
So between the elevators, the upkeep of the elevators, the upgrade of the electrical or the plumbing or the concrete restoration, the problem is that how did you get to that? How is it that your association now can be at this point and nobody knew? But I wanted to add to what you both were talking about, which was how transient the city is, how many investors you have. And the truth is, if the maintenance goes up for an investor, he just goes and he raises a rent to the person that's renting, and he's not
We're
being
going to
impacted.
talk about that in a moment. Doral and all South Dade,
Yes.
all Miami-Dade. I mean, you used to drive to Kendall because it was cheaper to live there. It's the same price as Doral. I mean, a two-bedroom apartment. I feel bad for the young people. A two-bedroom apartment today, and they blame it on charges. Is $2,100. Hello, there's no salaries to pay for this here. Not at the beginners level. I'm sure there's a lot of professionals, and they're blaming a lot of things that are. We're getting a lot of people relocating from upper states that are looking for freedom or different type of living. Okay, they don't want to be harassed, or I'm talking about major cities that they don't like the way that is being run. Okay, more liberal cities, that conservative states like Florida. Okay, what happens is that there is a fact that people are moving in, but what are we going to do if we don't act on this behalf? We're going to get our own Floridians to move out because they simply cannot live? My son threatened me, saying I have to move to Orlando. And Orlando is going over there, so don't go to Orlando. It's becoming very expensive. A two-bedroom apartment in Orlando is already at $2,200.
That's crazy.
I mean, when they raise your rent, Mayor Levin Cava lately mentioned that there's a cap that you can only raise, and it's 5% of your rent. They're not paying attention to this. Who does the people that rent can go to? There's no task forces
No enforcement.
no enforcement. Because after the fact that you have been robbed, it becomes a civil court, correct?
Yes. And then, when we go back to the condominium of the ability to sue, you'll hire an attorney and you'll sue, but the association has the ability to use that money from your maintenance to defend themselves. So at one point, you're going to lose because you just cannot go up against an association that has unlimited means. And that's another thing we often see, where an association will budget for $10,000 for 1 year, and then when the accountants go through the review, they spent $60,000, $70,000 in attorney fees because one homeowner has sued. They're probably they have the right to sue.
Yeah,
But
obviously.
they're using the association.
Isn't that a
money.
conflict of interest?
No.
When you hire, I mean, you paying for that attorney
Yes.
as a property owner.
Yes.
Okay.
And it's allowed. We talk about that all the time.
Then the law has to be rewrote.
So
rewritten.
that's what we are. So what happens is they will fight you or keep you in court. We had one client that they were in court, I want to say 3 or 4 years. By the time that they finished, they had spent $600,000
in attorney's fees.
in attorney's fees
And the
fighting
association billed as an assessment for the other property owners to pay for this?
Yes, including themselves because they live in that building.
Incredible.
So this is what we see every single day. So our advice every time we have a client or they come to us, a lot of them have already had attorneys and they've come to us where the attorneys couldn't continue to pay them or the attorney couldn't resolve. And we have attorneys that are our clients,
Yeah.
the smart ones, you know?
Hopefully.
But what happens is, as you go through this process, you see the first thing we tell the client is don't get into a legal fight because now it's going to be all about that lawsuit. And at some point, you're not going to be able to afford it anymore.
Can as a citizen and a resident of the state of Florida, who is the entity? Well, the state of Florida, Department of State, I guess, or what is it? Catherine Fernandez is the person that should address this issue to see if the laws change, because there is a conflict of interest. You have to hire an external attorney.
It's the DBPR. It's the state legislators are the ones that
So we have to talk to our state representatives.
that's what it is.
So when you go to vote this year, we are in election year. I love election year. And this one is going to be a great one. It is 6:29. I have to go to a break. Okay. And when we come back, we continue our conversation. I am so excited to have this program. We'll be right back. Si hay algo que nos caracteriza en el Doral es la buena comida y los grandes eventos. Por eso, impacta a tus invitados con Brunelas Catering, donde encontrarás un menú variado y a muy buen precio. No te vas a equivocar. Llama a Brunelas Catering al 786-329-2913 o búscalos en Instagram bajo Brunelas Catering. Déjales dicho que te recomendaron de Doral Voice Community Radio.
La hora más feliz del día en el Doral es la Dora Loca con Saulo García de lunes a viernes a las 3 de la tarde, aquí en Doral Voice Community Radio.
El Venezolano News, décano del periodismo de primera por más de 30 años en el sur de la Florida. Búscalo semanalmente en múltiples puntos del Doral o visítalos en su página web elvenezolanonews.com. En estos tiempos difíciles, una celebración puede ser bien costosa. Eternity Events te puede ayudar a decorar y preparar tus fiestas con excelencia y calidad. Llámate a Valentina al 786-991-3967 o búscalos en las redes sociales bajo Eternity Event para que puedas ver la calidad de los eventos que Eternity Events ofrece.
Descarga la aplicación Android o Apple bajo Doral Voice y disfruta de nuestra programación 24 horas al día, donde quiera que te encuentres. Doral Voice Community Radio, haciendo comunidad.
Si quieres almorzar sabroso y económicamente, en la 79 Avenida y la 46 Calle del Northwest, restaurante Eurocafé Express. Sándwiches y almuerzos ejecutivos de primera calidad, con buenos vinos y una atención de primera. Visita a nuestro amigo José. Para más información, llama al 786-362-6471. Restaurante Eurocafé Express.
La hora más feliz del día en el Doral es La Dora Loca, con Saulo García, de lunes a viernes a las 3 de la tarde, solo aquí en Doral Voice Community Radio.
Cuando se trata de calidad y prestigio en diseños gráficos, tus mejores trabajos los consigues en Printcraft. Buen precio, rapidez y confianza de que tus proyectos gráficos queden profesionalmente. Llama a Carlos al 954-294-6139. Printcraft, calidad comprobada. Welcome back. Welcome back. I never mentioned the date. Today is April 5th, and it's right now 6:32, even though we started on time. This program is in English, and I have it for a reason, because there are two wonderful knowledge ladies in front of me, ex-retired police department person, a lieutenant, and a sergeant, okay? And believe me, they have knowledge of what is going on. Before we went on break, we were talking about the state representative and how do we change these laws and how to get involved. We're in an election year, okay? And I have always said, we have to start, the government starts with you, meaning that it starts in your own association. If you live in a condo association and you have shared common areas and you have to hire a small, tiny little government called a board of directors of a homeowners association, you have what is called a vote. Now that vote, you have to choose wisely. If you don't know your neighbors and you have not investigated your neighbors, then don't vote for them. And only take one day of year to vote for the right individual. Do not send a ballot. Because I have seen something. I was telling them off the air that back in 2000 something, I bought a condo in Southwest A Street. And there were probably about 80 units. It wasn't a big condo. I mean, 80, you can, getting your son, your family to get together and agree to you in a lunch meal. Imagine getting 8 property owners with different cultures, different ethnic groups. Okay, together is going to be even worse. But there was this lady called Maria. Let's call her Maria. Maria rent the place like she owned it. She owned more of my property. Take the plan. You have to put the tank behind the tree. And then I said, I'm going to put a tree so I don't see the. No, you can't do that because it's against the rules. And so Maria put me up to here, and I ran as a president for the board. And I spoke to my neighbors like I do when I walk as a candidate. Okay. Why? Because government starts there, and it's you that make the difference when you vote. So you study your neighbors, you study who you're going to put in the board for your condominium association as president, who's the secretary, whatever it is. What do you recommend when people change their board before they do the change? Should they go to an audit? Should they hire you? I mean, what is the best solution? Not to find that after you receive the association, even though jurisdiction doesn't stop after you receive it, because that board is responsible for whatever happened prior to that. But what is the best recommendation you can give to a new board of association when they take over a condominium association? What should they do?
Well, I would tell you that they should hire us. Because,
No,
and the
please.
reason I'm going to say that is because we can give them a picture of what they inherited. So right off the bat, they'll know exactly what they inherited. Even though the state statute also says that you either have to have a financial review or an audit, we go back. I can't tell you how many DBPR complaints we initiate because the boards don't do it.
Do they get anywhere?
They
The DBPR, do they get involved? Do they have the task force?
No, but what the DBPR does is, if it's a viable complaint and they find that the board didn't submit the audit or the review, they issue a fine to the association. So at the end of the day, who's paying for that?
A fine to me. I complain to the DBPR, which is the entity ruling the law. I mean, it's the law. And then they issue a fine to the association that, not the previous people, but the association itself.
Yes.
So you're actually double paying, you're double dipping. Don't double dip. Anyway. Oh, God.
It
This
goes
is-
back to educating yourself,
Yeah.
whether it's a candidate for a council or for Senate or for president, for whatever candidate, you educate yourself as to that candidate. Same thing with the boards. Educate yourself about the board members that are up for election. Educate yourself as a homeowner as to where your money is being spent and how your money is being spent, which goes back to what Tamara was saying is a lot of people don't know what they're looking at when they get the documents that they request, if they get the documents that they requested.
Yeah.
So they come to us to help interpret those documents to see how their money was spent, and we have consultants that do that.
The management companies play a big role on this, okay? I'm not complaining about management companies. I think everything is like a city manager or whatever. You have to have order. However, choosing a correct management company, you have to investigate who is the board hiring and look at the reviews. Look at their experiences. Look, everything is in the internet, ladies and gentlemen. Everything. You Google name, the guy has been a fraud. The reviews come out automatically. You know, my point is that the DBPR, I don't believe he has the task or the personnel to actually regulate what they have to regulate.
Well, it's funny you say that because although these DBPR investigators are doing whatever it is they can do, you know, they too are bounded by whatever their responsibilities are. I don't think that they go above and beyond. Oftentimes, we talk about it. Today, I was having a meeting with one of our coworkers, how sometimes they work harder to close the case. And we know Suzanne has done statistical analysis on what percentage of the cases are closed, what percentage are no violation. It all goes back. That's why when we write a complaint.
This is public record, I believe, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So what happens is that we see that the majority of the times is the homeowner doesn't know how to properly write the complaint, or they don't know how to properly put the evidence together for those complaints. And the truth is that if a homeowner, in the process of our investigation, if we find that there's regulatory violations, we start writing the complaints on their behalf.
Okay.
Because even though it's going to hurt and the association's going to get fined, I assure you that the next year, your financial audit is going to be done on time. I assure you that when Juan comes in and asks for the records, they're going to give them to them.
Yeah.
Because,
And not only in a pretty matter, but in a legal form and the proper way to do it.
yes.
Okay. The services that you guys provide, how do you pay? Are you a non-profit or are you for profit?
No, we're for profit.
Okay, and you hire, you have your own attorneys. Okay. What normally, how do people pay you? By unit numbers, by the amount of units, or by what money attorneys charge X amount of money
Right.
an hour, but I'm sure a lot of
No.
associations says we cannot hire these people because we're putting more burden inside. But in the long term, you guys will know that hiring people like this company, South Florida, Property Owners Solutions, it will save you a lot of money at the end. Okay, so what are your charges? How do you go by? I'm sorry.
It depends on how big the association is.
Okay.
It also depends on the number of years you want to review. We have some associations or some homeowners that want us to review 2 years. Some want to review 5 years. You know, it'll depend.
When they go 5 years, it's probably because they know that they have been affected and they have identified, I bet. I will go 5 years back just to find out that they did a great job. I mean, within 2 years, it's fine. I look at a financial statement and I go, there's something wrong here. Okay?
Because
But-
you have the accounting background,
Okay.
but that's not everybody's case,
okay.
right?
But basically, when you look at it, it's because they're gonna go hire you is because they see they don't have any reserves. Okay, what are the detonators? Is what I want to call. What are the detonators so that they say it's time to call, South Florida Property Owners Solutions, because we have been robbed. We have been. I can't say the word I want to say.
Yeah.
Screwed.
Or the truth is, sometimes they just want to know where the money went. Here we are.
They're not gonna get it back from the guy that stole
No,
it.
that's
But can we
why.
put it in jail? Can we put somebody in jail if you prove?
Yeah. Well, if they were
But how long it will
self-dealing,
take to prove? Yeah.
no, because if they were self-dealing or the money wasn't used for association purposes and someone on the board benefited from that, we will put together the criminal case and then go to the jurisdictional law enforcement agency and have them
Look into
prosecuted, right?
prosecuted.
But like I said, it's an entire program, because it's not just us doing the review, it's us doing the review. If there's a criminal component, it's us being able to write that criminal report and have the law enforcement agency look at it. Then the law enforcement agency has to go to the state attorney, and the state attorney has to have a state
hearing.
attorney, right, a prosecutor that's willing. So it's a process.
How long does the process take, more or less, based on your experience?
Well, right now, I think that our process is taking about a year.
Well, that's fast, considering and after the pandemic, I congratulate you. It's pretty fast considering the fact because you have forensic accounting to do, and that takes a long time.
Well,
Right, and it's
yeah.
based also on when we receive the records. If we
Right.
get the documents that we've
Okay.
requested, when we get the documents.
Who gives you the documents? The management companies, mainly.
Or the
The
association.
association.
Sometimes we have to go to the attorney's office. I mean, it's just crazy. Sometimes a management office doesn't want to deal with us. We have to go straight to the attorney's office.
I don't get paid for this.
It isn't for that. It's because they feel
That
that
they're
they are
gonna-
protected with the attorneys. And what happens is, I mean, that is completely, it's unnecessary because now these attorneys are turning around and charging you $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 to sit there and babysit us while we go through all these. You want to do it, we'll do it. But it's a deterrent.
Yeah.
And it's what they use to
And
intimidate the
It's
homeowners.
not something that, for instance, you can require by law that they send you everything they have and then you do the forensic, or they don't give you the paperwork. You have to look at it and then take copies of whatever you want.
No, we get it all. Sometimes it's already put in piles when we go and we just have to scan the documents. Sometimes they put it on a link and send it to us. Sometimes we go in there and we go through, they'll give us, we'll give them a
it's
USB.
great. It's great to know that we're all going paperless, trying to save the
Yes.
world, because that information is probably on a blink of a link.
Well,
of a click.
the reason the paperless component is so important is because what happens when an association transitions from one to the other? We lost the paperwork. We lost the files. We don't have it.
And they do say that. Why? Because they don't want you to do. You mentioned something that the board of an association leaving, is actually liable for whatever happens. But they know how to hide things, including that the landscaping company belongs to a second cousin or whatever that is. So that's another issue. That's another box of Pandora, okay, that you open up by investigating who these people are. This happens in government, local governments. Can you imagine if it doesn't happen in our own associations? Okay, people have lost the respect to other humans and the respect for money. And those that are planning to leave a better world to our future generations have to act. What do you recommend we should do? I mean, perhaps you. The last time Tamara was here, I told her that as a candidate, I compromised myself to put a task force desk inside of the city so that they can prevent going into a deeper situation that the city is not going to be affected, but it's a service that we provide. We have to provide to our residents. Not because you don't vote for somebody, you're not there for you to be taken care of. One of the reasons New York allowed the residents in a municipality to vote was because of that, because they paid taxes based on their properties. Okay? Even though the federal law states that you have to be a U.S. citizen to vote. I don't disagree. I don't agree, but I don't disagree. The problem is that the ruling entity on the voting have no way of controlling who can vote federally and who can vote municipality, especially the Miami-Dade election committee. I mean, anybody, I heard that the responsible entity of removing somebody that is deceased from the voting facility, you could go as the son or hey, my father is no longer alive, please take him off them. The one that does that is the Social Security Administration, and they could be very far behind, 2 years, 3 years. So we have a problem in that too. And the same thing happens on elections in a homeowners association when we talk about this. Why? Because they send a ballot with a beautiful financial statement in the back. Am I talking? And they usually put it in a different color paper. You know what I'm talking about. Okay, in a different color paper, and they say, okay, here, if you cannot be present, please fill out the ballot. So basically, they come in and they say, okay, I witnessed once, okay, and somebody told me that he said, all these people send their ballots. I know all my neighbors, and he picked up randomly 10, and they didn't know what. They didn't know anybody.
Oh my goodness.
Can you imagine? That wasn't a nice sight. If I was in that site, I would be very upset. and calling 911, because the next thing that's going to happen is a riot. I'm not an aggressive person, but you are making a fool of us. That's what happens. Okay? So basically, they cancel the board meeting and they require that every single property owner be there or be represented by a relative.
So no more proxy.
No
But
more
now,
proxy.
so
That would be a great idea.
my question to you is, why would anybody go to that extent? Why would anyone on a
Because they can
volunteer board,
I will do that into that extent if it's hitting my pocket.
not that, about going and falsifying?
Oh,
Why would somebody go to the extent to falsify these ballots?
benefits.
That's what I'm saying.
And it's not fridge benefits. It's,
Right.
it's called benefits. Money. Okay? A contractor to paint the entire association. And I've seen a lot of them being remodeled today. Because Doral, is a beautiful city, okay? But you see that the associations are being remodeled. They want to be more modern, not the typical yellow that they used to be, the typical Leonard, like blocks building. Now that you see them, they're painting them white. Can you imagine how much money? If you go send somebody to paint your house, you're looking at thousands of dollars. So these associations have friends. If I'm hitting your nerves, please apologize. But it's the way it is, okay? And this has got to stop somewhere. So it's got to be stopped in the ruling entity. The state representatives have to advocate for us as residents and citizens of the state of Florida, and they have to pass those bills. So not a lot of people know about these bills, okay? Tomorrow, there's going to be a city, a Miami-Dade County Public School meeting that some commissioners are going to propose to put the praying back into the schools, okay? Praying before the school time. I remember when I came to this country in 1978, we had Bibles and we had praying, okay? We did the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, but then we prayed. Because God is the ruler of this country. Okay, this city, this nation was formed on the laws of the Bible. Okay, and a lot of people have been infiltrating it. So we have to go back to basics. Do you think this is being published everywhere when I'm talking to you tomorrow? No. If we don't say it, like this is the reason we opened up the Doral Voice, okay, is to tell the people, and we put it in a webpage, hey, listen, tomorrow is a board meeting. If they see that the community reacts to these problems, people act. Because one thing that I know community people or residents do, when it comes to vote, they pass the bill. They go, oh no, Baba, I'm sorry. When I told you as a candidate to do this in your prior election, you didn't do nothing. So I cannot vote for you today. That's the rule of the rule of law. That's the way it should be. If you don't act and you promise, then you don't need to hire. I mean, you don't need to hire because basically when you vote for somebody, you're hiring to represent you.
Right.
In the same level comes the associations.
And there's been legislation that's been introduced in the state of Florida. There's been several bills that died before they even got anywhere, which is really unfortunate because what we do is try to educate people. The reason we exist is because there's nobody else doing this. And you talk about DBPR, which is Department of Business and Professional Regulation.
Yep.
They have a portion that they do enforce. They do enforce the state statutes pertinent to the condominium associations. But they can't be everywhere at once.
Especially if they rule the controlled substance, the alcohol is ruled by there. I used to have a license for a wine distributing company. And the DBPR was the ruling entity. So they don't only rule this. Is anything that has a license. So associations must have a license to operate or no?
No, but they are regulated under that. But the funny thing is that we often talk about that is they're stricter on a barber shop that doesn't have that blue liquid where you don't have the cone inside the blue liquid than they are to what's happening in these associations. And everyone is impacted. If you're a renter and the maintenance goes up, you're going to pay.
Oh, yeah.
If you're the homeowner, you're going to pay. If you're elderly on a fixed income, you're going to pay. And this is exactly what happens.
It's like a revolving,
Yes.
never-ending story. It's a hairball. It grows and it grows and it grows.
But unfortunately, sometimes it costs people their homes. I mean, if they don't keep up with the maintenance
Oh, yeah.
fees, or there's somebody doing something,
There's so many ingredients that are happening right now. We're living in a very difficult world. And regulations are made every day, more and more regulations. I love regulations because regulations prevents, at least it will keep those away to say, hey, that's regulated.
But where's the enforcement? I'm okay
That's
with
what the
that.
problem is.
Because when you had your wine license or a restaurant, what happens?
Every
They're
month
afraid-
we were inspected
That's
and
it.
interviewed. I mean, not interview, inventory of the gallons and the amount of bottles. You see, that is a very controlled industry. You import 4,000 bottles, that goes into your account at the BPR. You sell 200 bottles, you better have 3,800 bottles. If not, you get a fine. So there is an entity. And if it happens 3 times, then they'll take your license away and you can no longer be a wine distributor. That is regulation. That is prosecution. That is action. Okay? Why can't we do this at the level of homeowners associations?
Well, don't get us wrong. We work very well with the people at DBPR.
No, me
we have
too.
good relations with those people. It's just that it's very difficult for them to respond to the laws that are being broken if the legislation isn't putting those laws on the books. And their hands are tied with some of the things that they can do because of the number of personnel, the limitations of the number of personnel they have, the knowledge of how to, even look through our contract service that offers that we do financial analysis. They're not equipped to do that. The police department generally is not equipped to do that. You've got to have people that can read the financial CPAs or people that can read the finances in order to know what they're looking for. So it's no
And they-
fault
they
of the
don't have
law
that staff.
enforcement,
They don't have
and
that
it's no
staff.
fault of DBPR. It's just that is a really important component of that. So there are things that can be done if this legislation is put through to protect homeowners, because DBPR does exist, and there is, like Tamara mentioned, the $4 that already goes into the condo fund. The money is there for a task force
Yeah.
to look into these
How
things.
much money? Well, I can imagine how much money, but do you have the figure more or less? How many associations or units on a condo association statewide makes those $4 payments? How much money does that department raises?
It's between 13 to $15 million a year.
What?
There's enough.
Enough. I think that's the budget of our police department in Doral, $13 million. So you can actually put law enforcement.
Oh, yes, they don't need appropriations. One of the things, and we help write one of those bills, trying to say, listen, mimic what we're doing at a state level. Because if you do that, you'll already have.
Can you do anything locally, the state municipalities, and then go up?
Well, absolutely. We think that may be easier.
I think so. I mean, we have as an entity, the municipalities have some type of what should we call it? Autonomy, regulated by the state. Okay, well, first of all, by the county. Okay, but because we're talking residence fraud, there is a way to look inside of those chapters and find out what, as a city, can you do, since you cannot wait from the top down. That shows how important it is, your local elections versus the national election, the president. And my friend, Mr. Trump, Mr. Biden, everybody at the high level, the only thing that affects us is the federal level. Gas, taxes, and you name it. Okay? But when it comes to your local community, your city, your police officers, your fire department, your streets, you have to look and you have to go out and vote for your local governments. I'm talking municipalities, or I'm talking the Miami-Dade County, county-wise.
Yeah, you brought up a good point about starting locally, and we've gotten very good response from the law enforcement agencies and the council people that we've gone to here in the local.
You can count with my vote.
The local cities.
I guarantee you, you'll count with my vote.
Because they can make a difference locally.
They can.
And it's important, especially like you mentioned earlier, Doral is comprised mostly of condominium associations.
95% of our
That's
neighborhoods.
huge.
I'm telling you, I live on one of them that is not. It's called Vanderbilt. Okay? And, it was the oldest part of Doral, because that's where, when they bought this land, that's where the capataz used to live, I guess. That's what they say. Vanderbilt was the first neighborhood. So then all these new block builders, now the new area of Doral, Landmark, is not closed, but they are considered an association. Imagine, not closed, a huge association. I think this is an important issue, okay? And that's why the last program we did in Spanish, and I thank you, Suzanne, for coming. I have enjoyed talking to you girls. I mean,
My pleasure.
a lot, because this is something that it goes through my blood. I hate when there is injustice, and I hate when things don't get done, especially as you put your big mouth to say that you're regulating, but you don't have the task to fix what the problem is. Have you ever been in a court hearing representing or testifying for an association or owners in a way, or have you reached court at any point in your life, in your career?
We haven't reached court. We haven't had to,
Okay.
but some of our cases were prosecuted where they did arrest a member of the board.
Bless your soul.
So that has happened.
If you break the law, you should go to jail. I'm telling you.
We
And
agree.
I'm especially talking to ex-police officers. My brother-in-law was a police officer at Miami Police Department for 30 years. He retired, like you. And I think it's a school...
Resource?
I think he's a school something security-wise. I don't know what he's doing. He never calls me. But I'm telling you, go ahead. I interrupted.
I was just going to say, Tamara started at the beginning of the show talking about how we came to exist, and this was all a brainchild that came out of her head because of a need in the community.
You can see the passion from Tamara.
She is so passionate. There are nights, I can't tell you, there are nights that she doesn't go to bed until 3 o'clock in the morning because she's working on a case. We're working on something. She's working on something alone, doing her thing. She's very, very passionate about this.
Okay.
And she
I
mentioned
know.
we're not for profit, but I can tell you, if you average out the amount of hours that we all spend on cases, it's
Yeah.
probably pennies on a dollar.
I know.
We're not in this to get rich. We're in this to help people. And
That's
she's
good.
super passionate
You're doing
about
a great
this.
community service, even though you have to be profitable. Okay, I mean, this operation is a non-profit, but there's money to expend in order to maintain it alive with one purpose: helping people get information. Okay,
Yes.
the same way with you. Okay, I congratulate your passion because you had to see and she didn't hesitate when I call her again. I said, I got to do this program again in English. You see, my English is very good looking.
Very good.
You remember Celia Cruz? She accepted a Grammy many years ago. And she said, I'm sorry, but my English is not very good looking. Because some people say that I can't speak English. I do. Some opponents say, no, he doesn't even speak English. No, yes, I speak
my
English.
goodness.
And he's pretty good looking.
Yes, it is.
Tamara, I have no words of thanking you. And I told you and I are going to become good friends. I am going to take this it's in my proposal as a candidate. Okay, I usually don't use the radio to promote anything on my candidacy, but this is an issue that has to be out there. Okay, I go out and visit people, knock on doors, and they say, "What are you going to do about the association?" And they know that I'm doing something about it. And when I get to the city, I am going to do definitely about it. And you guys are going to be my advisors. Because you see, I am in pro of hiring the right individual for the right job. Not finding the job for the individual, which is normally what everybody does, especially Latinos. I'm telling you, I know. I'm a Latino, I can say that too. I have owned many companies. I've been a successful businessman, okay? And people a lot can testify to that. But always, I've been under very deep regulations because the entity that rules my industry is the Federal Maritime Commission. So they have a task. If you violate your tariff, fines are humongous. So you have to act very well. So regulations are good. And we have to start at the local level because obviously for many years, many years, nothing has been happening on the state level. But doing it locally, then you have the local talking to the county, then the county talking to the state representative. That will definitely pass the bill. Because it only takes one to break the cycle. And we're going to do it.
Awesome.
Suzanne, I thank you for your visit. This is Doral Voice. You can come anytime. And if you have something you want to present to us, whatever, or you want to tell the city, please come back. Tamara, thank you very much.
Thank you, Juan.
Thank
This
you
has
for
been a
having
very special program for me because I proved that I speak English. No, but it's true. And, Information is the key to anything, okay? And this is what we do. We give you information so that you look at your representative, look at your local governments, look at your county governments and your governor. This particular year that is an election year, we have what we call the pot by the handle. It is you that hire them. It is you that make the rules. They organize. I mean, they organize things because they know, and everything has to have an order, but anything like that. This has been Otro Nivel, another level for Suzanne. Otro Nivel with Juan Carlos Esquível. I'll be back tomorrow with another program. Thank you very much.
Con Esquivel, yeah.